Hey everyone, this is Elijah K. Johnson with Liberty and Finance, and with me today are also the other two hosts of the channel, my dad Dunnigan Kaiser and Kaiser Johnson. Thanks so much for joining us today for this Ask the Brokers Live.
Thanks everyone for being here.
Yeah,
We'd like
thank
to
you.
answer your questions. So make sure you go ahead and join the live chat. If you're having trouble on YouTube joining the live chat, make sure that you're subscribed to our channel, and then go ahead and join the live chat, and you can ask your questions right there, and we'll try to get to as many as we possibly can during this next 45 minutes.
Definitely. And one of the things we'd like to do on these Ask the Brokers Live is really answer the questions that a lot of clients have been asking us, and also point if there are, specific anomalies in price and everything, point those out. One thing that we were going to begin was a few weeks ago when we were traveling back from the Rule Symposium, we noticed that the buyback on a swap, if you are selling us back Silver Eagles and swapping into a different metal, was historically high. We had never seen a buyback like that, and it is still very, very high. It's $10 over spot. We're purchasing back Silver Eagles back for a swap. So that means, if you're purchasing, for example, kilo bars at around $3 over, there's that $7 of extra money you have to purchase more silver with. So it's just a way to get more silver. Any thoughts on that? Then again, I know that you you had that you made that video a couple weeks back.
Right. Well, the reason we did was because many people had been waiting for us to tell them when it got back to like 925 or 975 that we had seen once before, but we got that 10 and a quarter that we were paying on a swap for American Silver Eagles. So it's still pretty close to that $10 over spot for buybacks of American Silver Eagles on a swap. And it really is a decent strategy. People have been struggling to afford American Silver Eagles for several months now, because the price on those has just run away. It's just decoupled from all the other coins, from all the other mints and all the other forms of silver. It's just a standout at the highest price, and there are reasons for that. Some of them have to do with actual recapturable value because of utility or recognizability or that sort of thing, but some of it's just a plain old supply demand imbalance because of the mint being short and so on, and people wanting made in USA. So anyway, if you have American Silver Eagles and you'd like to get more silver with no added cost to you, one way to do it would be to swap in Silver Eagles for lower cost forms of silver. So that's been, we've each done several of those type of deals since that 3-4 weeks ago, and it seems like it's been working out well for people. I think one of the things that comes up during a buyback and swap is the logistics of getting it done. And some people have been used to working with a local coin shop where they just walk in there with cash in their pocket and they walk out with some metals, or vice versa. And that's very immediate. As with all local transactions, it's quite punctual. You get it done quickly. But there's also, I guess, a little bit of a privacy lost there, because if it's in your town, there's a sense of security of you're walking in there carrying this valuable stuff, or walking out carrying valuable stuff. So there are trade-offs with that method, and sometimes local coin shops just don't have what it is you're looking for in the quantity you're looking for it, or they aren't ready to buy what you're trying to sell in the quantity you're trying to sell it. So that's where working with a major dealer, a nationwide dealer, and an internationally wide dealer like Miles Franklin can be helpful, because we're always buying and we're always selling and making a market for those things, whether you bought them from us or not. It's not a problem. But the logistics are more challenging when you're working at a distance. You have to lock your price in ahead of time over the phone, which is not a problem, but then you need to package up your metals. In this case, it'd be like Silver Eagles or whatever you're sending in, and ship them in USPS registered and insured. We can have another option, which we can create pre-insured UPS labels and email them to you, and you can have a pickup done at your home even. There are costs associated with that, but for some people it's well worth it. And then you have to wait for your metals to make it across country to get into Miles Franklin, and then there's a 3 to 5 day typically first in first out queue to get your stuff inspected and paid out. And so all of that is in today's situation, where there's still an orderly shipping service, although some people have pointed out the shippers are not as, they're handling the packages more roughly now than they did in the past, for example. So we've already seen post-COVID, a change in the level of quality of service with shippers, for example. And some people are asking me, I had a client just ask me yesterday, he said, if the time comes and I'm in a big hurry to swap, like, for example, silver into gold, or to cash out a whole bunch of my silver, if times have gotten tougher and the shipping process is even less dependable than it is currently, or there may be more civil unrest, like we saw a couple of years ago, where there were riots and that sort of things in several cities in the US a couple of years ago. He said, that doesn't give him a strong confidence that he'll be able to accomplish the goals that he's planning to try to accomplish when the time comes. And that's where I shared with him that a hybrid strategy of keeping some metals close at hand, so that you can use them directly where you are, but also staging a significant portion of your metals in the vault, can be a good hybrid strategy to make sure that you've already got a significant portion of your assets where they need to be, so that they can rapidly be swapped or paid out, or swapping from silver to gold at the time comes, that sort of thing. So that's something that people should consider, is depending how the times are that we're moving into, if you want to not have to wait for the cross-country shipping of your metals in times of potential unrest or delays, one way to do it is to ship your metals ahead of time to a vault storage account, for example, co-located with our bullion operations is one option. And that way, when the time comes, you're ready to do your buyback or your swap, it can be done very quickly without waiting for shipping.
Definitely. We have a question here from Daniel. Can we swap into gold also? Yes. So any kind of combination you're looking to do, you can. Essentially, the way to think about it is the metals that you're sending us is real money. So when we receive it, we have the money right there. There's no settling time. There's nothing like that. And then we just ship you out the metals that you purchased with your real money. So I think that's a very fun way to think about it. And it's a true way to think about it as well. So yeah, any kind of combination we can definitely do. Now we do have, I think another topic that Dunnigan, you mentioned was storage, and yeah, how it's very important to recognize that, yeah, right now we can ship things back and forth very easily, but who knows what the future can bring. So definitely have different options open is a very good idea there. Now, one topic that we also do cover, and this I guess has to do with client privacy as well often, is the 1099 reportable list. And that is essentially, we have a lot of clients asking, if we order this or we order that, do you guys report it? And the interesting thing is, no, we never report any purchases from Miles Franklin. So that is something to be rest assured for privacy and all that, that we're never reporting any transactions when you're purchasing. Now, when selling, we are legally obligated to file a 1099-B on certain buybacks. And that list you can actually email us for, and we'll send you that list that we're obligated to report. Now, this has nothing to do with any tax obligations that you have or some mandatory reporting that you might have to do. But on our side, those are the metals that we have to report when people sell back. But I don't know if Kaiser.
Just to clarify, that's.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
That's nothing unique to Miles Franklin. That's a IRS rule that would affect any dealer if you're selling back to them in certain quantities of certain products, and we can send.
And it's actually a pretty limited list. It's not, it's not like most stuff. It's a pretty limited list. And again, if you email us and say 1099-B list, we will send you our golden guide and tell you where to find that on there. And the other thing to know too is when you're doing a swap from in the same metal, like what Dunnigan was talking about earlier, of getting more silver ounces by, because right now with the high premium on silver eagles and a lower premium on kilo bars, stuff like that, even a lower premium on some generic 1 ounce coins and stuff that we are, rounds that we have and stuff like that. Every 3 or 4 eagles that you send in, you're picking up an extra ounce of silver for it because of just the difference in premium there. Again, always talk with a tax professional, but generally when you're staying in the same metal, you're not even expected to report a capital gain or anything like that, because it's a like kind exchange rather than swapping from one metal to another. You still get to the great benefit of having that high premium change there, but you may be expected to report a capital gain, whereas on a like kind exchange, even that's not expected of you.
Yeah,
So,
that like kind exchanges within any metal. So silver for silver, gold for gold, platinum for platinum. And there's a cost basis carry forward, so there's no taxable event. So it's a very handy way to get more ounces of whatever metal you're in if the swap premiums are favorable, as they are right now for American Silver Eagles, and you can get more ounces of silver without having a taxable event at all.
mhm.
We have another question here from a viewer on, buybacks and swaps. Will Miles Franklin buy back sovereign platinum coins? So yeah, pretty much for the general rule of thumb, if you have a product and it's, pure gold, silver, platinum, or palladium, we'll probably purchase it back. Just give us a call, tell us what the product is. We'll definitely be able to work with you there. The question also the viewer asks is the buyback price based on the spot price? And yes, so it's always based on the spot price, either a little bit above or a little bit below the spot price based on the product. And often if you're purchasing a product with a high premium, you're going to get a little bit more back when you sell. And if you're purchasing a product with a lower premium, you're going to have a little bit less back when you sell based on the spot price. But also those premiums can change, as we're seeing with the Silver Eagles going extremely high right now, the buyback being, $10 if you're swapping into a different metal. We do have a question.
Or the same metal, either or, yeah, as long as you're swapping
either metal, yeah, just into a different product, yeah.
Mhm.
And then we do have a question actually on 401ks, what to do if someone is in a 401k, that's 60-40 stocks to bonds. Your perspective on that. We can't give financial advice, but I don't know if Dunnigan or Kaiser, you have any thoughts of what the gold IRA options we have at Miles Franklin?
Yeah, let me take a crack at that. First of all, you got to understand if you're still employed by the employer who is sponsoring your 401k, you may have limited options on what you can do. So you've got to ask the custodian of your existing 401k, if you're still employed there, if you can take a distribution or if you can do a rollover out of that while you're still employed. They'll either say yes or no. Some people can take a loan out against it, but the loans have to be paid back to an active 401k. If you're no longer attached to that employer, then you have a lot more freedom and flexibility. You can definitely do a rollover from any 401k that you're no longer attached to that same employer. You can do a rollover into a self-directed IRA. We can talk you through the steps of setting up a self-directed physical precious metals IRA. You'll have a new custodian company, and you'll have to have those metals stored in a vault as long as they're within the IRA. So you can't hold them in your hand at home. But the funds can go straight from your 401k over into your new self-directed IRA and a rollover, and then you can purchase metals through us underneath that new precious metals IRA, and we'll ship them to your vault for you, and your custodian will pay us out of your funds that are in your IRA. So that's definitely doable, and that's you have a choice of two flavors there of either a traditional IRA or a Roth IRA, and there are tax consequences if you don't stay with whichever way you go, there's tax consequences, because money coming out of a 401k has never been taxed. And you know how it is in our modern world. The old saying was nature abhors a vacuum. Well, now it's the IRS abhors
untaxed
it hasn't
money.
been taxed. Yeah. So it's gonna have to get taxed at some point. And it's up to you to decide when that happens. If you open up your new IRA as a traditional IRA, there will be no taxable event when you do your rollover. It'll still just be untaxed money out of your old 401k flowing into your traditional IRA, still untaxed, kicking the can down the road for some time in the future when you're hoping that tax rates might be favorable or something. Good luck with that. But anyway, on the other hand, if you open up your new one as a Roth IRA, you'll need to inform your existing 401k custodian before they do the rollover that you'd like to recharacterize this as a Roth rollover, and they'll have to withhold some. It will be a taxable event. It'll count towards your current year income, and it will be taxable in the current year. So you can let them know which way you want to go. The big benefit, we're told, of having a Roth precious metals IRA is that future capital gains within the Roth precious metals IRA would not be subject to further tax. And if people believe that metals are poised to double or 5-tuple or 10-tuple or whatever going forward, then it's quite attractive to think of not having to pay additional taxes on that potential future gain. So lots of considerations. We'll give you, if you just, again, email us, just say IRA info, email us at libertyandfinance@protonmail.com. Just say IRA info in the title of the email, and we will send you our golden guide to investing that includes some information about the basic steps on how to set up a precious metals IRA.
We have another viewer's question here. Please talk storage. So we talked a little bit about that, but I think one thing to note about all the storage facilities we work with is going to be that they are going to be segregated, audited, and allocated. So, a saying out there, and we have clients ask this all the time, if you don't hold it, do you actually own it? Right. And I think that's a very good question there, because people really want the metals held in their possession. I think storing in a facility that's segregated, audited, and allocated is pretty much as close as you can get to that, because the metals are going to be in your exact spot. They're going to be audited, and they're not going to be commingled with anybody else's. So, and the metal that you put in there is going to be the exact same metal that you take out. So if you have metal that you may not feel secure, storing in your own possession, that's probably the best alternative in that circumstance. But any other thoughts on storage?
Well, I know, so we have two depositories that we tend to work with the most. One, Dunnigan already mentioned, with Dakota Depository, which shares vaulting space with, we have vaults there, Miles Franklin, and vaulting space there that we're storing metals at. And so it does make swaps very easy if you're looking to, get things ready and staged there so that you can do a swap at a later date and so forth. And the other one is our Brinks program, which is, Brinks has multiple locations across the US and Canada. And they have a special program with Miles Franklin where we offer flat rate storage, rather than one that's constantly the cost base is constantly adjusting because of different prices in premium and the associated costs with insurance and storage and so forth. And so it's a unique thing that Miles Franklin has that, to my knowledge, very few other places do, if any.
It's an exclusive in North America. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, and to have, the biggest and oldest name in storage and security handling that for us is a pretty cool program. And again, for more information on that, we can always send that to you with our golden guide and our further storage information. But yeah, it's a really interesting opportunity to be able to have flat rate storage, even though you are having fully allocated and segregated storage of your metals.
Another thing people are thinking about, as they've been sometimes accumulating for years and years, making small purchases of metals over the time, stacking and stacking, eventually they start to feel like, gosh, I've kind of got all my eggs in this basket here. And you start to think through scenarios of, well, like people who are considering moving, now they got to move all their metals with them. Or if they're contemplating that they just have so much right close to them that they feel like that in and of itself becomes a risk factor that think of a scenario where, heaven forbid, if there were a break-in or something like that, they may not want to have all their eggs in one basket. So sometimes a hybrid strategy is valuable to contemplate and to think about having some things close at hand and some things in storage. There's another category of things that are definitely handier to have in storage, and that's the 1,000 ounce COMEX bars. For clients who like to get the lowest price per ounce possible for silver, that definitely leads you to considering 1,000 ounce COMEX bars, but they are a hassle to handle. They're each about 80 pounds, and they're difficult to ship and difficult to insure when you do ship them and that sort of thing. So some people who prefer to own silver in that way definitely prefer to have them held in vault storage for them, so they don't have to be handling them and storing them in their home and that sort of thing. So lots of different considerations around storage.
One further thing, and this is sort of tangentially related. I know I had a client write to me, and I will be getting back to your email last night late to ask about the idea of, hey, look, as silver and gold ratios change, and with the idea of wanting to swap from silver into gold when the ratio has improved, more favorably towards gold, with large, big fish coming in and that kind of thing, and doing swaps. Will we have any gold left for people who are doing smaller purchases and smaller swaps? And while it's impossible to say, what the state of the availability of gold or silver or platinum will be in the future, one thing I want to assure anybody who's got that question in their mind is that we make a huge priority of making sure to handle things first in, first out, and that whether you're someone spending $50 million on precious metals, or whether you're someone spending $5,000 on precious metals and wanting to do a swap, we're going to give you the same kind of respect and execute that for you in as timely fashion, no matter which end of the spectrum that you're on. And so we make sure to get that taken care of properly.
And I think one thing that Dunnigan mentioned was really having multiple options, right? So having maybe some metals stored with yourself, some metals at a storage facility. That principle, I think, is very important in many other respects as well. We've talked a lot about, having some very recognizable silver, for example, junk silver and silver eagles on hand. If there was to be a currency crisis and you had to use that as currency, a lot of people asked about that, and it's like, that's the most recognizable. It's going to be probably the best in that situation. However, we can't predict the future, but that's generally seen, silver eagles and junk silver as being the two best options there. The premium's so high though. So how do you optimize that? How do you do that? And one of the ways that a lot of clients choose to do that is to purchase a majority of their metals, have a majority of their metals be in lower premium product, for example, like 10-ounce bars, 100-ounce bars, but then have a minority of it in silver eagles and junk silver, enough then to get by if there was to be a currency crisis. So I think that idea of really keeping your options open is very important in these kinds of times. Is we can't predict what the future holds, but what is the way that we can optimize and have the most options as possible, I think, is very good there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, one thing I wanted to just piggyback on what you said, Kaiser, about we can't predict the future of when a big fish order might come in, that sort of thing. That applies on a daily basis. I mean, that's hour to hour. When clients call me one morning and say, I'm getting ready for a purchase later this week, and I wanted to find out what you have in stock on this, this, and this. Mm-hmm. In one sense, it's very prudent to do that kind of sort of near-term logistical planning and that kind of thing. On the other sense, it's almost futile, because in an active market with an active inventory, what we have in on Monday will not be necessarily what we have in on Friday of that same week. So the idea of trying to do near-term preparations for an upcoming purchase or something is something that is best done like when you're ready, when the funds are ready, then find what's available and what the availability and the price is, and then make the best decision at that time. Because we can't hold metals. We can't say, oh, this is earmarked for so and so, this is over on the side. No, it's either sold or not sold. So we have a live inventory, and when you're ready to make your purchase, that's when we know for sure what we've got. So there isn't a good way for us, even though we are experienced brokers, even though we're working with a reputable dealer and so on, to tell you, a week or two or more in advance, here's what we're going to have on stock, because it can get sold out. It can get sold out as soon as we hang up the phone.
Yeah, and one point of clarity on that, for us, when we lock your order, so when we're on the phone with you and you say, yes, go ahead, lock the order, those metals are sold. Those are then set aside for you. And that's why, we have an obligation to sell them to you at that price that we agreed upon, and you are also obligated in an agreement that you will purchase those metals at that price, because then we do actually set them aside. So we're not waiting to receive your funds before we lock it and set it aside. As soon as it's locked, that is the moment that both parties are entering this obligation to buy in, to sell it, because that's the only way that we can make sure to guarantee you the metals that you're looking to buy. But you're right, it's a very dynamic market right now, Don, again, like you were saying. And so we're seeing stuff like just yesterday, we were looking at like a mercury head silver generic 1 ounce coins. They're designed to look like the mercury dime. And we had plenty of them. And then I went to lock 50 this morning and there were 3 left. So things are changing rapidly. And so to get a lock in that's when we're able to say, yes, okay, these are set aside for you, and nobody else has a crack at them right now. So.
All right, fantastic. Well, I wanted to thank everyone for joining us today. It's been a fantastic Ask the Brokers Live. I hope you enjoyed it. If you like this, please comment on this video. Tell us to do more. We'll definitely be happy to do these anytime. Answer your questions. And yeah, thank you so much for joining us today. We'll be back as long as you tell us to be, whenever you tell us to be. So thank you so much, guys.